Hello, I'm Marites Vitug of Rappler. Welcome to Rappler Talk Investigative. Joining us today is Congressman Reynaldo Umali, the man of the hour. He's the chairman of the House Committee on Justice, and the Committee on Justice has just, or is finalizing rather, the articles of impeachment against Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. Welcome, sir, to Rappler Talk Investigative. Thank you for granting us this interview. I
Good
un-
evening, good evening, Marites, and good evening to all our televiewers.
Sir, you said earlier that when we were talking before the interview, that you are now finalizing the articles of impeachment. And that, can you tell us more about how many articles there are and what are your strongest grounds?
Well, in fact, I'm sorry that we were unable to complete this as of last night, and this is the reason why we had to postpone our hearing today because we did not want to submit a preliminary draft of this resolution and articles of impeachment. But having said that, we're almost done. It's just a matter of finalizing with some editorial corrections, but
So
more or
may
less,
yes,
the articles are already crafted, and there are about seven
seven articles
articles.
of impeachment, and you were saying this is a sequel to the Corona impeachment. So
Yes,
you start with the first ground, sir.
yes. This being a sequel, then we're starting with the first ground, which is culpable violation of the Constitution, betrayal of public trust, and other high crimes, for the reason that the Chief Justice deliberately failed to file her statement of assets and liabilities and net worth for the years ending 1987 to 1997, 1999 to 2001, and 2003 to 2006. So, uh, as you very well know, if you will recall, the then Chief Justice Corona was impeached for just simply omitting some of the assets in his SALN. But in this particular case, it was not only an omission because, as a matter of fact, there were some properties omitted, which are real property located in Bataan and real property located in Davao City. But more than that, there were about more than 10 SALNs that she did not file uh, at a time when she was already very well considered a public officer.
Sir, I think one of your colleagues said that this took place before she became a justice of the Supreme Court. So, what is your response to that argument that this happened before she joined the judiciary, the non-filing of SALNs?
This it doesn't matter because in one case, which is the case of, I think that was
A
a
judge,
judge, Judge
Fuentes.
Fuentes. He was also dismissed even if the violation happened before he became a member of the bench, before he was appointed as a judge, but he was removed nonetheless. So, the sauce you apply for the goose must be the same sauce that you apply for the gander.
And you said earlier that this case happened in 2013 under Chief Justice Sereno, and she concurred in the decision.
That is correct. And so, in fact, looking at the speech of Senator Franklin Drilon,
In
this
2011,
was in 2012
2012,
when
right?
he voted on the case of former Chief Justice Corona. It is very clear here that if I may just read that portion where the Supreme Court dismissed Delsa Flores, a lowly court interpreter, for not reporting in her SAL and her stall in a public market. This is a negligible property or asset that she has, and yet she was dismissed. And so, the very statement of then Senator Franklin Drilon, the Chief Justice must be held to a much higher standard. Those who dispense justice must conform to the highest standards of professional integrity and personal honesty. Yan po yung sinabi niya doon. And so, that was his basis in finding former Chief Justice Corona guilty.
The second item you mentioned, sir, was that two real properties were not declared in the Chief Justice's SALN. And these were not in the impeachment complaint filed by the lawyer, Gadon. And how did you find out about these articles? I mean, these TCTs, these land titles, which properties which were not registered under the name of the Chief Justice, under
Yeah.
the SALN rather.
Yeah, when when the impeachment committee found the complaint to be sufficient in form, substance, and grounds, this case has taken a life of its own because we are prosecutors in this case, and we cannot go to the Senate impeachment court with nothing. And so, as an impeachment court, as a prosecutor or a future prosecutor, we need to do our jobs. And so, there was an allegation that there was some of these. I think the charge was some of the assets or the fees she collected is not reflected in her SALN. So we ask, all the relevant agencies, like I think we ask OSG, we ask DOTR, and of course, since we already have her SALN, some of her SALNs, we asked the LRA to provide us evidence of the full extent of what she declared, and that is what we found out.
It's similar to the Corona impeachment. You were a prosecutor then, sir.
Yeah.
And I remember that the LRA also provided, I think, your team, with
List.
a list,
A list of about
properties.
24 or 25
Exactly.
properties, but when ultimately we processed it, there were just a few of it, three, I think, or four properties because some had already been disposed.
Yeah, there's some comment that a number of the issues raised during your 15 public hearings had to do with the leadership of Chief Justice Sereno. Her weak leadership or ineffective leadership. Is that an impeachable? Are these impeachable offenses? Her administrative lapses in running the court?
Well, the particular article that would have been violated by this would be Article 11. Let me just go through this.
Sir, Article
11.
You have 7 articles of impeachment, di ba?
No, no. Article 11 of the
Of the
Constitution.
Constitution. Okay, sorry.
So, one of the grounds is culpable violation of the Constitution. So, the first question to be asked is, was there a constitutional provision violated? Section 1, Article 11 of the Constitution provides, public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives. So this is the constitutional provision. On the matter of SALN, Section 17 of the Constitution provides, a public officer or employee shall, upon assumption of office, and as often thereafter as may be required by law, submit a declaration under oath of his assets, liabilities, and net worth. So this is a constitutional requirement. Was this violated? I guess so. Now, uh, let us now define how it was culpably violated. And so we have to refer to the uh, definition as defined by the Constitutional Commission that drafted the 1987 Constitution. And what did the drafters of the commissioners say? Culpable violation of the Constitution refers to an act that is committed through a deliberate and wrongful breach of the Constitution. Now, let us now go to the acts. Was it, as I earlier asked, was there a constitutional provision? I guess there is, and that is um, Article 11, Section 1 and 17. Now, is it culpable? Is it a breach, a deliberate breach of the Constitution? I guess that is, because then we have to now look at her actions. First, let us go to the SALN. Did she file it? No, she did not, and she did it in more than 10 times. Was it deliberate? I guess so. But the problem is, when she was required to submit this SALN by the JBC, what did she say? She said that I was cleared by the UP, and so I need not submit it. But the fact of the matter, if she was truthful and honest, she would have said, no, I did not have those SALNs because I did not file it. So she lied. Is that deliberate? Is that malicious? I guess, for a Chief Justice who is required to uphold the highest standards of morality and justice and the like, you cannot lie. And that is what she did here. That is just on SALN alone.
That seems to be your strongest ground, sir, is the SALN and the tax non-payment of taxes.
Again, taxes is the lifeblood of government. All justices, and even if you do a rundown of jurisprudence of the Supreme Court, they will all say that, this is a constitutional duty of every citizen. More so if you are a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And, there were violations again. I think BIR found discrepancy of more or less about 2 million, which is not declared in her income tax return, nor probably even in her SALN. And this is what we're looking at.
Again, sir, the income tax violations, according to BIR, happened when she was a UP professor. So it happened before she became Justice of the Supreme Court.
A taxpayer is a taxpayer. Doesn't matter. If you violated the, if you, what do you call this? If you evaded tax in the past, what assurance are we gonna get that you will not violate it again? It goes against the grains of probity, the constitutional provision that I mentioned, Article 11, that you must at all times be accountable to the people, whether it is during or before your stint as Chief Justice, you are accountable, and the province of impeachment is to exact accountability from all public officers.
So, sir, since you head the House Justice Committee, you've listened to all arguments. Are the two strongest grounds for you the SALN and the tax evasion or lack of
No,
tax
we are
pay?
only starting with that because, as I said, this is a sequel. It is a strong argument, yes, because if the Chief Justice, if former Chief Justice Corona was convicted and removed from office because of that, I see no reason why this cannot be applied to her. But I am telling you, once we are able to complete and finalize these articles of impeachment, you will find that there are worse or there are stronger reasons why she should be removed, and we will explain that in the course of uh, the hearing in Senate.
You expect to transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate in May. Sir, is that your timetable when you resume?
Looks like it will have to be in May because we have not completed this. We will vote upon it on Monday because today is our last day. I was hoping we could get this voted upon today so that we can submit it on Monday in plenary. But since we will only be voting on this on Monday, then probably another 2 days. Wednesday will be the time that we will submit this, and the Rules Committee will have uh, uh, look into it before it is included in the calendar of business.
Sir, there's a scenario wherein the co-warranto petition filed by the Solicitor General in the Supreme Court and the impeachment there are two parallel processes. So what will happen? There's one happening in the Supreme Court, one case, then you will be filing this, transmitting these articles to the Senate.
Yes, these are two modes that can be availed of, and uh, we cannot deprive the Supreme Court of its jurisdiction on co-warranto cases.
So,
But there are different grounds. The ground on co-warranto, and I guess it will not apply to other impeachment cases, except when a an impeachable officer is disqualified. No? So, because in this particular case, it just so happened in the course of our probable cause hearing, it came out that she was disqualified on two counts. One is failure to file SALN, and then the misrepresentation committed on this, and then of course the psychiatric results, which renders her disqualified also from assuming, because she, according to the psychiatrist and the psychologist, she is not recommendable, and she will not be able to qualify for the position being applied for. So these are different grounds that can be relied on, and there is a specific remedy which is co-warranto, and this has been availed of by the state. So we cannot deprive them of that remedy. On the other hand, our recourse is impeachment and removal, because under impeachment, it is really a determination of the fitness of the impeachable officer to continue holding that public office. And our role as impeachment prosecutor is to exact accountability from her.
Sir, won't you wait for the Supreme Court to decide the co-warranto petition before you proceed to the Senate?
Well, probably we can do that, but our job is also, our mandate is also time bound. Like the reason why I want this calendar for the plenary deliberation is because I only have until May 15 to complete my task. And so I want to complete it now so that I need not worry about this. And then the majority leader and or the rules committee have 10 session days to act on it as well. So there are certain timelines that we will have to address. So if the co-warranto proceeding has not been resolved, then we will have to proceed. Otherwise, we will be reneging on our constitutional duty as well.
Sir, this is the second time you're going to be involved in an impeachment case against a Chief Justice. When you were a
Not exactly. I was involved in the impeachment of the Ombudsman. Likewise, on the Chief Justice, I was involved in the impeachment of the President, meaning Duterte, and President Noy, Pinoy. I was also involved in the impeachment of Andy Bautista, and this is the sixth.
But this is the second Chief Justice, sir.
On the Chief
Okay,
Justice,
yes.
yes, this is the
Yes.
second line.
So are you worried about its impact on the institution of the judiciary? Because some people are saying it's going to shake up again the Supreme Court, the way it happened in 2011.
I am more worried if she stays there because if she is really, and I think she is unfit to continue holding that high office, she can do more damage if she stays on.
What are the lessons you learned from the Corona impeachment, which maybe guided you or helped you now in this impeachment, second impeachment against a
The
Chief
difference
Justice?
between this impeachment and that of former Chief Justice Corona is that there was no hearing at the committee level. And so when we went up to the Senate and filed this impeachment case, I would say that we were not prepared to litigate at that point in time because we did not have the evidence as yet, unlike now, where we have complete evidence. Our articles are well written and can be very well substantiated. I don't need a small lady now.
I remember a small
Yeah.
lady who delivered the
Yeah.
bank statements
Yeah,
or
that was the
records.
game changer. Remember, if you will recall, Marites, we were being castigated, pilloried already by the Senate impeachment court because of what they claim lackluster performance in the presentation of evidence. In fact, to my recollection, uh, the presiding judge warned us that if we cannot produce evidence, the court will dismiss the case. And that was the birth of the small lady when we got this document, and that changed the name of that changed the ball game.
So
All
you
of a sudden, people became interested again in the impeachment trial, and they were now trying to look at all of these assets, about 100 million, I think about 80 to 120
Yes.
million in different banks, and then the dollar account.
You won't go into that anymore here in this complaint because you said you
This
have
is
enough.
different.
Yes.
This is different. In fact, this is more on the fitness. This is more on the psychiatric and psychological and mental makeup of the Chief Justice in leading the Supreme Court.
Sir, as you know, impeachment is a political process. You have said that, I think, or your colleagues said that in 2011. So this is again another political process. Does this have the support of President Duterte?
Well, I don't know. I've not talked to him. He has no hand at all in this. Of course, there was a complainant. We have a constitutional duty, and we were acting on that basis. So, whether or not there are interventions from wherever, I couldn't care less because my role is, as chairman of the Committee on Justice, is to conduct this proceeding in the most efficient and effective manner, and as a prosecutor, to build our case, establish our case, and ultimately prosecute this case towards the removal and the conviction of the Chief Justice.
So you see yourself leading the prosecution in the team of prosecutors in the Senate, like Tupas, Congressman
Traditionally,
yes, the House
traditionally
Justice.
it is the chairman of the
Yes.
Committee on Justice which leads the prosecution panel. But I'm open to any other arrangement, especially with the majority leader who is equally brilliant in terms of his performance in the past impeachment case of former Chief Justice Corona. he made the closing remarks, kung naaalala nyo, yung palusot. I will describe the acts of the Chief Justice in one word, and that is palusot. And, that reverberated in the halls of Senate, in the minds of the senator judges, and even in the minds of the public. And that was the end of Mr. Corona.
Was that decided upon by your prosecution team in 2011, the closing remarks?
Yes. And he was deputy of Junjun Tupas at that time. So if you will look at succession, then I think he being the senior member of the prosecution panel at that time, then he can very well follow through. More so because he is majority leader of the House, and so I'm willing to give way to him if that will be the sense of the super majority
But
in the House.
you will be, what I mean is, even if you don't be the lead, if you're not going to be the lead prosecutor, you will be managing this
Yes.
entire process.
I guess so, but that has always been my role. What is important to me is the end game. What is important to me is the bottom line, that we are able to achieve the objectives of this impeachment proceeding, which is to secure conviction and removal of the Chief Justice.
On that very confident note of Congressman Umali, we close this interview, and there will be, we expect the House Justice Committee or Congress to transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate in May. Thank you very much for staying with us.